give up your 2015 world title if it meant Bournemouth won the Premier League?
It's just like, how is this happening to me?
No,
I was just pinching myself.
Yeah.
I could not believe I was with all these superstars. I'm not sure I could have turned that situation round.
Yeah, because he was
You know,
throwing.
he was absolutely flying. A couple of sets
Yeah.
up, he was. And my daughter was going, no, Dad, we don't want you going off playing darts every weekend. You know, we need you home.
Yeah.
All three of us were 44 in 2015.
Yeah.
So we said, it's not just a young man's game. I think the biggest thing that's going to impact on Littler's dominance is how much money does he want?
Yeah,
How much money does he need to live, or how much money do you? And looked out at the crowd, and I looked at my wife, and I said, "You all right? Am I all right?
Yeah.
It's you that's got to be all right, not me. It's you." And she gave me that.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to All About the Darts episode 3. I'm your host Phil, and once again I'm joined by co-host and fellow darts enthusiast Simon.
Hello.
Now, if you've watched the first couple of episodes, you might be wondering why Simon sat to my left today, and that's because we've had to make space for a very special guest. So we're honoured to introduce today world champion and professional darts player Scott Mitchell to the podcast. Scott, it's brilliant to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on. Me and Simon have been really looking forward to this one. So I guess darts fans will know you best as the 2015 BDO World Champion, but there's been a lot happening since then. So what does darts life look like for Scott Mitchell in 2026?
Good question. 2026 is kind of started not so well. I obviously went back to try and get my tour card. I'm still playing. A lot of people don't realise that I'm still playing at a sort of decent level. So I've been playing on the Challenge Tour for the last few years since I lost my card end of 22. So the Challenge Tour, for those that don't understand, is kind of the one under the PDC Pro Tours. So I've been competing on that, and I've been in the top 30 that probably the last couple of years. End of last year, I dropped out of it. I had a little bit of a health issue.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't playing as much. So but yeah, so we've sorted that out now, and I'm back firing, ready to go, and can't wait to set amongst the bigger the name, the harder they fall in it.
I have a question about the Q School. It looks a very complicated format, as in you play about 11 or 12 games, and I guess it's just win as many games as possible, is it?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of the way that the Q School works. There are two phases. There's a phase one, which is it's in total is 7 days. So phase one takes up the first 3 days.
Yeah.
So if you haven't finished in the top 64 or something the previous year before,
Right.
you don't go to phase two. If you do, you get invited to phase two. So I had to qualify for phase two for the first time in my life.
Right.
So I had to go to that first 3 days, and you're starting to think, well, if I don't qualify, I'm going to look a right mug at you, and everybody's going to think you're finished. And and they're all first to 5 in the first stage.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So, and they what they do, I think they take about 40 players through.
Pretty
So
brutal format, isn't it?
so that the last stage is basically made up of 1 to 8 players. So the invites in the last stage come from like the development tour, the women's series, the challenge tour, and then the numbers are made up by the rest who are trying to qualify. So I managed to win one of those days, which I was over the moon to do, and went into the last few days. But unfortunately, the last 4 days of Q School, there was only like 12 cards available for 128 of us. And the total Q School entries, both in Europe and in the UK, because there are two Q Schools, was over 834 players, I think it was, playing for 25 cards. So they're handed out on a pro rata basis. So if there's more entered in Europe, they get more cards offered to them than you do in the UK.
Right, okay.
And that was the case this year. I think they had 13 cards in Europe, and we only had 12.
Yeah, I know.
In the UK, so you're looking out of the 400 or 500 that are in it in the UK. You're looking at trying to win a card. 12 if you win a card. People miss out by 1 leg. It's so cutthroat.
Wow.
I noticed there was there seemed to be 2 tables. There was the one for like Jimmy Van Ski was top of, and then there was another table that get like say European players. So they don't have to compete on the same. Are they playing the same matches, or it's just 2?
Yeah, they compete exactly the same way,
Yeah.
but obviously, you compete in Europe. It's to make sure that there's a fair sort of mix of European players making it through to the 1-8 that are your Pro Tour players. So, I think it's the fairest way. I don't think there's an ideal way to do any of it. I think they brought in the Q School kind of thing because that's what was done in snooker, and obviously there's the relationship with Barry Hearn running the both. So, but it is really, really cutthroat. I've won my card through Q School, and I won one of the days of the last 4 days, and it's extremely hard to do. And
Must
you've
be
got
relieving.
It was harder. It was probably harder to get a tour card than it was winning the World Championship, if I'm honest. It's that's how competitive it is. And of course the attention on it, and everybody sees the fact that you've got a tour card with the PDC is they see it as a license to print money, but it's kind of far from that. It's okay if you're in the top sort of 16 or 20, but the rest of you are still sort of having to work and still having to go to work on a Monday and then try and play darts on a Saturday. It's quite strange.
Yeah.
So when did darts for you then first go from being a hobby to something where you thought, do you know what, I could actually make something of this?
To be honest, I don't think it ever has. I think I've kept it a hobby. I think I've kept it a hobby all the way. I mean, yeah, there was a time I started getting good and started playing county for Dorset and stuff probably around 2000, maybe 2002, somewhere around there. And I started then. I really struggled. I've never been the fastest learner at anything, so I really struggled initially. I got dropped by my county 4 times in a row, and most people just walk away then and say they can't do it. And I was kind of, my Dorset county manager was going, I think you need to go. I did motocross and stuff before that.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I think you should go back to motocross or something, because he said, I've been a manager a long, long time. You haven't got it, Scotty. You haven't got it for a dart player. So my kids are crying in the corner at the county match. I'm losing. I'm up. It's kind of. I got dropped 4 times from Dorset, but I was there with tears in my eyes, going, "I'm going to show you, mate.
I was going to say, are you one of these
absolutely
people?
Show you. You should never have said that to me."
Yeah.
And then it went on, and I had a couple of years of sort of in and out the team, and then all of a sudden I'd won. A new manager came in at Dorset, in the form of a guy called Dave Jenner, and he was a legendary player and doing all the big stuff against the likes of Bristow's and stuff when the holiday camps were around in the BDO early days. And he said, right, this is what's going to happen. He said, you're number 3 in our Super League averages, yet you can't hold a position in the top 30 players in the county. So he said, I want to know what it probably. I said, I'm just frightened of getting dropped. I just get every time I turn up, I get dropped. Yeah. And he said, well, that's not going to happen this year. Well, I'm the manager. He said, you can lose 9 out of 9 this year. And he said, and you'll be fine. So I went off, started doing big averages, 28, 29 averages. First 3 matches of the year, put me up into the A, and I've very rarely played back in the B ever since, and that was kind of 20 years ago. And I went to him at the end of the season. I got player of the season. I said, well, it's really down to you, Dave, that you gave me the confidence. And I said, really, if I'd lost those first 3 games, would you have kept me in? He said, nah. He said, I'd have got rid of you. But he said, I knew exactly what you needed to hear. And it kind of went on from there, really.
Was that the moment, or was there a particular moment where you kind of realised that you could compete with the top players?
Yeah, we used to have like you have top stars come down and do exhibitions and stuff, and I was running them close. We had Phil Taylor in Ringwood one time, and I ran him close, and because you're one of the better county players, they leave you to last so that Phil was nice and warmed up before he plays you, and you're not on the board. So I kind of realised then that when those sorts of things started happening, that I was kind of a little bit better than average maybe, but in comparison to, I was a bit better than average in this area. It didn't mean I was better than anywhere else, So it probably wasn't until I made it to the UK Open, maybe 2007, and played on TV that I realised, hang on a minute, there's I've if I applied myself a little bit more here, I think something could happen.
I remember seeing your clip at the UK Open, and I think you were described as like the farmer. The darts player who likes to be a farmer.
Yeah. It was like, Most of my farming life, probably me darting hobby has been paying for me farming hobby of late. But yeah, it is just I don't really know why it happened. I don't know. I had friends. I said I'm not good enough to be on the telly. I had friends kind of frog march me. Simon Watley, who was a great player at the time in the PDC, lost in the 2004 quarterfinals of the PDC World Championship. Who lived in Yeovil. He said, "I'm going to come and get you, and I'm going to make sure you go to that UK qualifier because." He said, "You really have got something," and I went and stayed at his house the night before, and we practiced together, and went down, and I won the qualifier, and he said, "I told you were good enough," and I was playing alongside him then on TV. It was just absolute crazy.
I think that's the great thing about the UK Open because obviously it's such a big field, isn't it? 160 players, and they do
like
these.
The FA Cup of darts.
Yeah, they do give that UK qualifier all around the country. So you got the players that can win qualification through pubs, and if you get a nice draw because it's not seeded. So you could get like Humphreys and Littler play in the first round, and you could go through the whole draw just playing other pub players.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can go quite far.
It can. It really. The way it used to work is you started in your pub qualifiers, and then it went to an area qualifier, and then went to the TV, and 32 of you qualified to be in with the world's best. Now they haven't got to worry about bringing 32 in. I think it's only 16 now, or may even be 8. I don't know, but. It was the start for me, and I've sort of appeared at the UK Open a few times now, 4 or 5 times, and it was one of those things I look back with fond memories because I played Yellow Clarkson on that, and he missed a 9. He was on a 9 dart or something and missed it.
Right.
And then I went out on 146 to save the game, and
brilliant.
It was kind of I can do this under pressure. I can do this.
Because he was world champion at the time, or had he won it the year before?
I think he'd won it the year before, and then got his golden ticket to go and got invited over to the PDC and sort of ran to the hills with it. Yeah,
and that's all it takes, doesn't it? Who's Scott Mitchell? Oh, Scott Mitchell's beaten Yellow Clarkson, and next time you're on telly, it'd be like, Scott Mitchell beat Yellow Clarkson last year.
It developed my reputation. To play him and run him close and live on TV. All of a sudden, people start stepping up, and then sponsors were coming in locally and going, "We want to see you do more of this." And then the sponsorship started coming in, and then I decided to go kind of the BDO circuit route. Probably 2008, maybe.
Right.
I resisted for about a year because I had a young family, and I have the most amazing family. Who I look back now, when I probably wasn't so keen to do it, it was down to them that they said, we sat round. I'll never forget it. We sat round the kitchen table, and I think my daughter was about 13. My son would have been about 11, and my wife and the sponsorship. People were offering me sponsorship and coming in, and my daughter was going, no, Dad, we don't want you going off playing darts every weekend. We need you home. We need you home. And my son's 11 years old, Sam, and he said, Katie, that's been so selfish. We need to let Dad have a go at this, otherwise he'll never ever know. It might last a year. And that was 2008, and now the one that's missed out the most is probably my son, because my dad taught him how to drive tractors, how to use loaders, how to do things on the farm. And Katie, she ended up playing county and coming with me every weekend. So Katie didn't miss out anywhere near as much. And we had a vote. It was like tried to give you the older people that are listening to this it was just like bread. Sitting around the chicken on the table, and where they used to put the money in the pot in the middle of the table. We sat around the table like that, and we discussed it, and we went for it. And like I say, that was 2008. I went on the circuit. I didn't make the Lakeside the first year, but here we are, 2026, 18 years later, and we're still doing it, and still have unbelievable sponsors. And I feel very fortunate and very lucky, and the people that are having to pick up the slack at the farm are my wife and my son mainly, and then my daughter helps out as well, and my other farming friends will come out, and if I'm playing darts somewhere and my son's baling hay, they'll come over and bring a trailer and a tractor and bring the hay in for us because I'm not there to do it. And I may be the front bit, and everybody goes, "Oh look, there's the world champion," and what have you, the former world champion, but without those friends, without those people that have backed me the whole time and believed in me, I wouldn't be here. There's no way about it. No two ways about it.
I love the way you're so proud to be a farmer. You don't like you're almost like a farmer first, world champion second, and it's kind of
definitely.
You're very humble with it. It's like a lot of people would have been farmers.
Yeah.
Like I'm not mentioning any players in particular. It could have been electricians or etc.
Yeah.
As soon as they've won their world title, that's it. I'll ditch that. But you've carried on.
Farming's different. I was like, I was sorting some hay out up in the barn 2 days ago, and in come a dove and started making a nest in one of the. And I just filmed it and put it on my TikTok, and it's just like spring's on its way, everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and I am that's my.
Yeah.
I've been brought up to be that person.
Yeah.
Being the oldest son, and my grandfather had this vision of us renting a farm or any tenant farmers. We don't own it, so and he got a 3-generation tenancy before I was even a twinkle in anybody's eye.
Yeah.
So and he's passed away before I even got to have it.
Right.
So I'm very lucky that our landlords are amazing people.
Yeah.
And have adhered to it, because in this day and age you don't have to.
No.
He is the most amazing guy, and we're friends, which makes life a lot more difficult at times when things have to be said about it. But you don't go into farming for life to be easy, but it's a way. It's a way of life. It's not a job. If farming, if work feels like a job, then you're in the wrong job, because you've got to be passionate about it. You've got to love it. You've got to. When it's absolutely lashing it down with rain
at
and
6 a.m.
At 6 a.m. in the morning, and you've got to go out there and get the cows or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. You either love it or you don't love it.
Yeah.
It's either in you or it isn't. And I'm very fortunate that it's in me, and I feel very fortunate that it's in me. And the darts, sort of 9 times out of 10, it doesn't take second place.
No.
Don't get me wrong, because if I've got to be at a dart venue, that comes first.
Of course, yeah.
But you've then got to arrange everything around it, because obviously the cows do feeding every day. They don't know when it's Christmas. They don't know when it's.
Isn't it? But I think you've answered my question as to how you kind of balance that kind of darts.
I'm a very lucky
career
boy
in your
that
farm.
I've had friends to help me balance it.
Yeah,
Good,
no,
good
fantastic.
support network. So obviously, I think I spoke to you before about I first heard of MODUS when Phil Taylor was playing. Phil Taylor was in his kitchen and Fallon Sherritt was in her bedroom, and they were playing darts because there was no tournaments going on. But then I should have kept watching it because I quite enjoyed it at the time. But then obviously tournaments came back on the telly, and I kind of thought, well, I don't need to watch that anymore because the tournaments are back on TV. But it's still going strong, and you're a big part of it. How would you say that? What's the benefits of MODUS compared to the WDF and the PDC, etc.?
I think the MODUS. I wish MODUS was around when I was younger, because I think it's a massive stepping stone for new players. When you think back to the early days of Lakeside, and for me to get 5 or 6 appearances on the TV took 5 years.
Yeah.
Whereas now they can get 25 games in a week on television.
Yeah.
So new players like the likes of Luke Littler came through the MODUS Super Series.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that helped bed him in. And if you ask Luke, I've asked him and he's told me that it bedded him in ready for going on to the big stages.
Yeah.
So you get to play on stage, you get to play in front of cameras, you get to play in pressure situations, you get people seeing you. These are all things that change from playing in the local pub or whatever to, 12 people being in the pub and only 2 of them watching you. The marker and probably your best mate, so, and everybody else is chatting and thinking about, what's the sandwiches coming out tonight, and it is kind of a strange thing. So MODUS for me has a massive is playing a massive part in the development, particularly of the newer, younger players, and I'm really proud to be part of that. I am a very, very small cog in what is a big wheel at the MODUS Super Series, and a vision that probably George Noble had, who the referee, who had it at the start and went to MODUS with the idea, and they've developed it between them, and it's gone from being a live league at home. I was very fortunate enough to be part of that as well, and it was all being filmed from home, and like you say, you would see my spare bedroom, one on me and one on the board, and I was in a week where I was playing the likes of Phil Taylor, Raymond Barneveld, Fallon Sherritt, and it was just like, how is this happening to me?
No,
I was just pinching myself.
Yeah.
I could not believe I was with all these superstars of darts. But of course, most other people were still having to go to work or whatever. So there were only a certain amount of players that were able to do it. So I was doing it between feeding my cows. So my first game would be 10 o'clock, and I'd rush off out, go and feed my cows, come back in for 12 o'clock game, have a 10-minute practice again, be ready for the next game to play, and then I'd go off out again and do something else, come back in, and so I was spacing my 4 or 5 games a day between my work still. It was crazy.
One thing I picked up from it is, like you say, you were playing people like Phil Taylor, and there was no airs and graces about it. You'd have a chat about like what you watched on telly last night, or just something random you did in the day, and it was just watching superstars play darts, but just be normal about it. And that's
it is the strangest thing, because when you go to the Pro Tours and you're in the room with the Pro Tour people, everybody knows who you are anyway, whether you're new in the room or not, and you all know each other, but you kind of don't know each other. No. So it's very strange. And again, back to the MODUS thing, you have players that come in. You're not allowed. There's no supporters or anything until the Saturday night till you play the final. So you got 6 or 12 players that week that probably would have never sat on around a table with one another, and ever got to know one another. But the MODUS Super Series, the way it works in that players' room, you've just got 6 in for Group A. Yeah, they get to know one another. Then you've got the 6 in for Group C and the 6 in for Group B, 5 in for Group B. And then you've got the finals night. Yeah. So it's really strange. Sometimes you know the players and who they are, but you've never sat with them. No. And it's kind of a social gathering as well. But then you walk out that door and then want to take each other's head off on the dartboard, and then go back into there and everybody's all smiles again. It's really strange. And again, that's part of the learning thing, because that's exactly what it's like. Yeah. When you go to the television stages, there are only so many people allowed in the back room at a World Championship, and you sit around one another and you get to know play. And then 2 days' time, if you've both gone through, you've then got to play them. Yeah. So it's a very similar situation. So I think the Super Series at the moment, a lot of people say, well, we can't watch it weekly. It's live 6 times a week. Yeah. So those of you that haven't seen it, Group A is made up of 6 players. The winner of Group A, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, goes through to the Saturday night final. Yep. Group C is done on a Thursday lunchtime and a Friday lunchtime. So that's 1 o'clock till 5:30. And Group C, 2 of 6 players go through into the finals night. Right. And Group B is played at 10 o'clock at night, goes through till about 2 in the morning. And 3 of those 5 go through. So the favourable group to be in is Group B. Right, okay. And you have to win your way into Group B through Group A. Okay. It's a strange scenario, but it's just such a great format.
And is the prize money throughout the whole, was it 6 or 7 days? Or was it just finals night?
No, it's prize money throughout the 6 or 7 days. So if you win Group A, you get like 1,500 quid for the 3 days work. And not bad. Absolutely. And if you win, I think you win Group C is only 2 days, so it's slightly less, and Group B is the same because the groups are smaller. But then you get to the finals night, it's $5,000 to the winner for the final every week. Wow. Yeah. $5,000 to the winner every week.
Nice thing for a hobby, isn't it?
Yeah. Not bad for a hobby, and most of the guys that are going through and winning those $5,000, and then once you win a Saturday night, after 12 weeks, they have a finals night of all the series winners.
Right. Okay.
And then the winner of that takes away $25,000.
Amazing. How do new players get into MODUS then? You said it's a lot more straightforward.
So there's qualification route through a new series called the ADC system. Right. So that's the amateur darts. Yeah. And it goes through, you play vaults in your local club, and they go on for like 7 weeks, and then the top 32 from your area, the Southwest, then go and play off. And then the winners of those spots go straight onto the MODUS. Okay. And they win an ADC spot. So, yeah.
And it's interesting you point out it's good for young players coming through, but as we both know, still the likes of Kevin Pater and who did I see?
Wolfie's been on. Martin Adams.
Trying to think
Andy Hamilton was
Darren
on a couple
Webster.
of Darren Webster.
Used to be on the PDC.
Used to be on the PDC. So what they do, there's an eclectic mix really of players like myself, former champions and what have you, taking on the new up and coming young guns. So there's. So we're kind of, I don't know what the others think, but I realise that I'm getting to a point now where I'm slipping down the ladder a little bit. I don't plan to keep doing that. I'm really going to go for it this year.
But wants to go and show
the champion inside you wants to show that little upstart. Yeah. You think you're Summit. Yeah. I've been there, done it, and bought the T-shirt. Yeah. Probably got a few T-shirts.
I'm not a full-time farmer yet.
Yeah, correct. and I want to go and show them, but some of them are just so raw and so good. You look at them and go, how do they score like that? And it's becoming a real route for young players. Some of them are taking a gap year. Their gap year of uni now is going around the tournaments and trying to make it into a job. And if they don't, they go back to uni.
Yeah.
It's crazy. How would you ever thought that darts would ever take over your education? No. But it is.
I noticed that with Mitchell Lawrie. You talk about rawness. I thought when he played in the final against Jimmy Van Ski, the first 3 sets he didn't think about. He was going bang, bang, bang. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he thought about winning. And I think, along with Van Ski playing well, I think a combination of him thinking, oh, I'm close to winning here, and Van Ski turning it around, that is suddenly that rawness went away a little bit.
I agree, and I think had Mitchell played somebody a bit older like myself, I'm not sure I could have turned that situation round.
Yeah, because he was,
he was absolutely flying. A couple of sets up, he was really, and we're damaged goods. When you get when you get to the end, you've seen everything, and everything's happened to you, so you become slightly damaged goods. So, your mindset kind of changes. You either start throwing with a bit of freedom, and hoping it goes right, or you've had it. So. I think it was a great final to watch. It was a great final to commentate on, and I think that's where the WDF still has its place, because it has the next stage on from being at MODUS and stuff. They can go on and be genuine world champions.
Definitely.
Moving on, because obviously I'm aware we've got time against us as well.
I will talk and just tell me to stop. Honestly, I'm terrible.
That's why I invited you on. As we know, the seniors tour seems to have. Did it go bankrupt or?
No, it just stopped. It just stopped. It was really good for the likes of my age, but unfortunately, it wasn't paying for itself. It wasn't covering the prize money. It wasn't coming. So the backers sort of eventually said, we can't keep backing this. We couldn't find our. The biggest thing for it was, we couldn't find our home. We couldn't find a home on terrestrial TV. And I think had we been able to find a home on a TV station on a regular basis, we'd have been okay. We were jumping from one to the other because
Channel 5,
it was kind of it was really tough to find a home, and you need to regularly find a home so that people know where to find you to watch it.
And it had the likes of Phil Taylor.
We had a tour. We had a tour that there was 80 and 90 players playing every week, every time that it came up. It's all weekend to try and get these TV spots. So maybe we'll see it come back. I don't know. I hope so.
I hope so, because I enjoyed it. And what I tell you, one of my questions to you, Scott, is it had the regulars like yourself, Phil Taylor. What I noticed is players like Richie Howson, Leonard Gates. David Cameron, not the Prime Minister. You didn't really see them when they were like 20, 30, 40. Where were these guys when you and Phil...
All of those guys have been at Lakeside at some point. Richie Howson hadn't. But, David Cameron, for example, I actually played him at Lakeside.
Did you?
Yeah, I knocked him out first round from Canada. Okay. So they were their chances of being on TV was very limited because of where they lived. We saw Jeff Smith every year because he kept getting to the semi-finals at Lakeside. If you got to the semi-final, you got invited back the following year. Yeah. So Jeff was still trying to qualify for PDC stuff as well, and he had the backup of knowing that he was going to Lakeside. Right. So a lot of the players had that, but some of them didn't develop till later. Derek Coulson's one who's 56, 57, who's come through the MODUS Super Series, and we found him, and he's gone on and gone on to be at World Championships. He went on and did really well at the World Seniors. Yeah. So he missed out on a tour card by one leg this year. Yeah. Otherwise, you'd have seen him on the Pro Tours and playing Euro Tours. It's just, we're in a world at the moment where we think that it's a young man's game, but there are still older people coming through and using their experience and their life experience to manage to play and go, you know what, it's only a game, and then you played well.
Well, an example, we touched on Peter Wright before the show, and up until 2013 or 14, hadn't done anything. And within 10 years, he's winning multiple tournaments, 2 World Championships. So sometimes it does take you later in life before you...
There was a Gary Anderson interview recently, and it was at Ali Pali this year, and they go, you keep telling me that it's a young man's sport? Yeah. I said, do you remember 2015? Yeah. He said, I was 44, he said, I won the PDC World Championship. He said, Scott Mitchell won the BDO World Championships at 44, and Lisa Ashton won the ladies at 44. Yeah. All 3 of us were 44 in 2015. Yeah. So he said, it's not just a young man's game.
And another one, I know you don't want to leave this one out because obviously you probably watched her win her first world title at Lakeside this year.
Yes, Dieter.
No, but just before.
Yeah, I did.
There's a lady called Dieter Hedman. She's 70.
60 something,
60
66 maybe. Yeah.
And she's been trying to win. She was world number 1 for a number of years, wasn't she?
Yeah.
But she'd always fall short. And this year she finally won the world title at grand old age of 66. So
It's amazing, and great for her.
And
she's still England ladies captain as well. Yeah. She's still plays at World Cups and stuff.
Age no barrier.
Age no barrier.
So you're gonna win.
So I got another 11 years yet to go.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying? I like that.
Next question. The 2015 World Championship. Now, as we've probably touched on before, your record going into that was quite modest.
It was hopeless. It was absolutely hopeless. You're being really kind.
I'm being polite.
That's like saying I'm a slow player, but calling me methodical. Thank you very much.
And your first round match was against a former finalist, Tony Oche. So once you beat him, which is quite a bit of a... Not only did you win your first round match, but you beat a guy who loved that stage. Did you start to believe you could win the world title, or did you think, well, I'm going to go on a run and see where it takes me?
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought I could win it before I left home.
Oh, you wouldn't
my wife said we left home, and I was actually putting my suitcase in the car for the week on the Friday night. Yeah. It used to be a players' meeting before, and I put my suitcase in, and I'd won about 7, maybe 8 ranking tournaments that year. Stephen Bunting had won it the year before.
Yeah.
And when he won it, I was in the back room and everything. Oh, you could see he was going to win it.
Yeah.
Ow. Yeah. How could you see he was going to win it? I played Stephen 8 times that year and beat him 6 or something. And everybody said, well, yeah, but he was the best player all year. And I'm thinking, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Yeah. So I had a hell of a year and won 7 or 8 ranking tournaments.
Yeah.
Put my suitcase in the car and I said to the wife, I said, if I don't win it this year, I'll never win it.
Yeah.
And that was my confidence going in. I knew I was playing well.
Yeah.
And every time somebody hit 180 against me in that World Championship, I was thinking, you're going to need another dart because that ain't enough.
Yeah.
I'm still going to get you. My mindset and my confidence and my positivity, I was relaxed, but at the same time, very positive.
Yeah.
So I wasn't letting things get to me. And when you kind of play Tony Oche in the first round, I felt that I was either going to go first round or win it.
Yeah.
It was that type of year.
Yeah.
And we went, well, I think we went 5-5 in sudden death. I mean, we were 2 sets each.
Yeah, it was
5-5.
Yeah.
We balled up for the last leg, and it was like, and I lost that as well. Missed it by a mile.
Yeah.
And it was just a case of trying to hold your nerve to do it. And I just kept telling myself that big players do big things in big moments.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a big player, you've got to start right now.
And is that the key difference that year? Just that
massively
wave of confidence that just
when I'd not been successful in the first 3 years, one of my sponsors said to me, she said, I think it's about time you saw a mind coach.
Yeah.
And I got this mind coach in Northern Ireland called Steve McKibben, and he said, yeah, of course I can help you. I'll give him a call.
Yeah.
You know, top of the morning to you and all that.
Yeah.
And he gave me a call. He did kickboxers and he'd done a few dart players before me. And a couple of the dart players said, I made a mistake telling you, because he just got me absolutely on point that whole year. After about, I spent 300 or 400 quid with him. And within 6 months, I'd won £100,000 being a world champion. So I think, but people look at it and go, oh, it's a lot of money to it. It might not work. It might, people buy CDs and bits and pieces that are not sort of geared to you.
Yeah.
So they're a bit random, and so maybe they don't work for you. But for me, Stephen had me believing. And then I made the mistake of telling Glenn Durrant. When he asked me how I was so, until 2015, Durrant couldn't get near me. And he asked me how I did it. And I said, well, I've got this mind coach. And he gave him a call. And the next thing you know, he's won 3 world championships. I've only got the 1. Maybe I could have had 2 or 3 if Glenn hadn't been about. Maybe I shouldn't have ever told him, but we'll never know.
I remember Glenn Durrant, the first year he won his world title, in the first round he was 3-0, second round 3-0 down to Hogan.
Yeah, Hogan missed 8 with 3 darts to knock him out.
He might not go on to win. He wins he wins the title.
Glenn says exactly the same.
And I feel like it's those little moments, like your Tony Oche moment, like Barney's moment against Colin Lloyd.
Yeah.
There's little moments where you think, had they not done that, what do they do for the rest of their career? And
but for the ones of us you see as an absolute success, there's 100 that have got those moments kind of wrong, or it hasn't quite gone their way, and never got near it again.
Yeah, and it's key. Moving on, I like this question because obviously it's very. When you hit tops again, when you were going for tops against Martin Adams, 6-all, 2-1 to you.
Yep.
He was waiting on 37. What's going through your mind? Is going like, just hit it, because I know he's going to come back and go 2-all.
No, I remember the moment like it was. It was 11 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
There's some things that will never leave your mind.
Of course.
And I was stood at the table, and looked out at the crowd, and I looked at my wife, and I said, "Are you all right?"
Yeah.
And she looked back at me and gave me the look.
Yeah.
Am I all right? Am I all right?
Yeah.
It's you that's got to be all right. Not me. It's you. And she gave me that.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're thinking of me in this moment.
Yeah.
You're just going to go up there. You got 3 darts to win the World Championship.
Yeah.
But I knew exactly what I was going to do. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I walked. I was not going to mess around and take time.
No.
I was going to. It was all going to be one motion. It was all going to. I'm going for that little sip of water, checking all my family are okay.
Yeah.
Walk up to the oche. Don't mess around and stand behind. Stand behind for a split second. Walk in. Find your mark. Throw the first one nowhere near.
Yeah.
Do not risk going for it. By this time, the crowd were absolutely silent.
Yeah. Just don't hit one.
They were so silent
Yeah.
that as I walked from the table to the oche, and I'm thinking, everybody's watching this. Everybody is watching this dart.
Sets in at that moment.
Yeah.
There was a lady at the back was putting glasses in the glass washer.
You did.
So I could hear this tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. It was like Lara Croft Butler in Tomb Raider walking around at the start when you're having a practice, and I thought, and that broke. It was lovely.
Yeah.
It broke the intensity for me. It was like, oh no, not everybody is. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you heard the glasses going to the glass washer and the door shut. And then I went up through the first one a mile away, and the crowd went, ooh, because they thought that I'd absolutely bottled it. And then it was time to go with it. It was time to go with it with the next one. And unfortunately enough for me, it came out of my hand. It did 3 loops, caught my finger and went in.
And I just remember seeing the relief on your face.
Well, you try for 2 3/4 hours to convince yourself that you can be the world champion. You've got to beat the man that's a man. He was a 3 times world champion, Martin.
He was Mr.
Red hot
Lakeside,
favourite. And and my mind coach had convinced me he's the favourite.
Yeah.
You've got nothing to lose here. This is an absolute free shot for you. Nobody's expecting you to win it. You know, I was 2 months out. I was 80-1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was one of those sort of things. And so when I actually hit it, after 3 3/4 hours of convincing myself I could do it, the dart goes in, and all of a sudden you go, "How have you just done that? How have you managed to hold your nerve? How have you?" So everything then turns into questions.
Yeah.
Why has that happened?
Yeah.
How did you do this? Yeah. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I didn't plan for this. I didn't plan for me. I'd led in bed the night before saying to my wife, we won £35,000. And she's going, no, we're going to win 100 tomorrow. You're going to win tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
It's your year.
Yeah.
And I'm going, and we at that time, we probably didn't even have £2,000 in the bank. So we broke the bank with the sponsors helping me and everything else. We put everything into this. Yeah. This was it.
On in one moment,
and for one moment, for all those things to come flooding back. In 2015, it was the only time my dad ever came and watched me live.
Really?
Wow.
So he came and watched me live from first round. My brother convinced him to go.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how much of a farmer my dad was. He said, these motorways, he said, they're brilliant. You can overtake and all this. So that's the type of country person my dad is. And that's the way I was brought up. Very simple. So
new invention.
So when absolutely, what a great invention those motorways are. And so you go and win it, and you just I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to celebrate. Martin had been a really good friend over 5 or 6 years. Had really encouraged me.
Yeah.
Liked me as a person. Yeah. Encouraged me. Never discouraged me.
No.
And I then didn't want to run around the stage jumping up and down because I didn't want to disrespect him. And I went to him and I said, what a champion you are. blah, 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 shook my head. He said, don't worry about that, son. You're the world champion. He was screaming it in my face at me as we shook hands. And I said, I can't celebrate. I'm not disrespecting you. He said, it's not about me anymore.
No.
It's not about you even. It's about that fan. You're owned by them now for a year.
Yeah.
Get out there and celebrate. And I ran to the side of him and went, yeah, crazy. And the dog that I threw out at the start of the match, I always throw a fluffy dog out at the start of the games. Yeah. That came back at me and hit me in the face. So whoever had it didn't want it, threw it back at me. But they were shouting at me, so I ended up throwing it back to him.
What struck me about Martin Adams was he loved to win. He was seriously loyal to the BDO.
Amazingly loyal.
Which will lead on to a question in a little bit. But because he was like England captain, anyone he would always respect his not just English, but his other peers. So as much as he wanted to win, you'd never see him look really annoyed after losing. He'd always shake your hand or so.
Yeah,
and that's what I got from that.
He was just an amazing loser.
Yeah.
In the big moments, he never got upset. He never, on some of the floor tournaments, he did when he felt he'd been dealt a wrong in, or somebody rattling the darts behind you when you're going for a dart. All the little bit games with it. But if you didn't do any of that to him, he was very respectful of you. And for me, he was the guy that I looked up to an awful lot. And to then beat him in the final was just the most amazing thing. And then of course you win it, and you then the people that have sacrificed so much for you. Yeah. I had all my sponsors there, friends, family, and obviously the first thing I wanted to do was go and see my family. And I'd always dreamt that if I ever won it, even from a young kid, I would do the Pat Cash thing and go across the balcony. Thing, and I remember Pat Cash going to see his family before he picked up the trophy, and that's what I wanted to do. So I went to see my dad, my brother, my wife, my daughter, my son was there. I couldn't really get to my son. He's a bit further back, which is the one regret I have, because he's the one now that, here we are years of time, he's been bailing me out time after time. But we went back to, I said, we're going to do it again, Dad, 2016, we're going. Yeah. And he said, son, I can't come. I said, why can't you come back to Lakeside? We had a great time. He said, that moment of you hitting the double to win it and me being in the crowd, and he said that apart from you and your brother being born, was the best moment in my life.
Can't beat that.
So he said, if we go back and you lose first round, and I remember that, he said that day, that night, that moment, I want to take that to my deathbed. Yeah. As a clear thing. And unfortunately, my dad passed away 3 or 4 years later, but he had his wish, and that's what he did.
Sorry to hear that, but like you say, at least you've given something for you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think, can you imagine if maybe he'd passed away 10 years earlier?
Not seen it. My granddad passed away earlier, and he said I was going to be a world champion. Yeah. Back in the late 90s, he said, you're going to be a world champion. He said, if I'm up there and I can help you in any way, shape or form, I will.
There you go.
And so I never thought I was going to miss that double, because I thought Grandad's going to help me.
It's great to win 100 grand, but sometimes you can't buy those moments.
Never about the money.
No.
Never.
Those are the moments you really will always
remember. Money comes and goes,
but that memory will always be with you.
And you think of 100,000, what can you get? You can't even get a house now for 100,000.
No.
So it's not really. No, it's not even. No, you can't even get a double garage in Bournemouth for 100,000. So I mean, not that buying a double garage wouldn't change my life. I'd do something with it, but yeah.
Get a Costa, you come back half of it, come out half of it. Obviously, me and Phil have got some quick, quiet quiz questions. I just want to ask you one, moving on, just a quick one about Martin Adams. Obviously, a good friend of yours. What did you think about him not accepting the Grand Slam invite? Did you, obviously you respected
I thought it was crazy, and then when he did actually go...
Yeah, because then he did go, didn't he?
I think there were reasons for that, and I know the reasons for that because we'd spoken about it. So,
yeah, sure.
I don't know whether I'm at liberty to say. I think I can. I think Martin... back at the start of the PDC, was playing both BDO and the PDC.
I remember him reaching the semi-finals of match play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when that happened, the PDC kind of turned the screw on him and said, "You're going to have to choose.
One or the other.
We're going to say one or the other." And he said, "If you're asking me to choose," he said, "I will stay with the BDO because it's more established than you are." Right. So he said, "If you allow me to carry on as we are," he said, "I'll continue to do the both." Yeah. And at that time, that was not on the table. So he said, "Right, well, I'll stay with the BDO, and that's the reason."
Thank you. Just one more question. Do you remember the 1997 News of the World Championships when Phil Taylor played Martin Adams in the semi-final? and Phil Taylor needed 1.767 to beat Adams. It was like first to 2 legs.
Yeah.
And he did it.
Yeah.
And it was just, I just remember seeing that, that'd be a great rivalry, but unfortunately it never really happened because...
No, it didn't. And that's my one crying shame of what's kind of gone on with darts, with the split and everything. There was some rivalries there that really missed out. Even Mike Gregory and Phil Taylor back in those days. Mike agreed to go first,
and then he came back.
And then he came. They were asking the players to sign a life away. Basically, if this court case went wrong, that they had with the BDO, that Mike was going to lose his house and everything else. And Mike sort of, I spoke to Mike about it before he passed away, and he said I was going to lose my house and everything that I played for, everything that I'd done. I'd paid my house off. I did it, and he said I couldn't risk that. I couldn't risk that for my family. So that's why he went back.
And in hindsight, he probably made the wrong decision, but in that moment, when you're being told you're going to lose your house...
But who knew where it was going to go? Who knew where the PDC was going to be like it is today?
Exactly.
Right, over to Phil.
We are going to do a bit of a quick fire round. So I think we've got about 8 questions here, asked by me and Simon. Try not to think about it, and let's see what answers you come back with. So I'm going to start things off. PDC or BDO?
I've got to say BDO, haven't I?
I was going to say that,
wouldn't he? Lakeside or Ali Pali atmosphere?
Lakeside.
Lakesides.
Most underrated player ever?
Yeah, one of my buddies probably, Scott Waits, I reckon.
I agree.
Favourite double?
Any that brings in the money.
Best night out after a tournament?
Do you know what? We don't generally do nights out after a tournament. Probably the Lakeside win, because I was up till like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I was only drinking coffee.
And
I took a booking I took a booking at like 2 a.m. for the O2 in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Brilliant.
But yeah, probably because my whole family with me, there was about 30 of us still there. So, it was once in a moment lifetime. So that's probably that one.
Who fed the cows then?
Well, they all got home by morning to feed them. They fed them before they left to come and watch me.
Who was the biggest character in the BDO behind the scenes?
There were so many for so many different reasons. Alan Norris was an absolute character.
Big fella, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was a real character. Stephen Bunting in his days, he was just so funny. Daryl and Tony were just like a double act. Daryl Fitton and Tony O'Shea were just like a double act. There were just so many. Scott Waits is always up for a joke. You never leave the phone around with Scott because your photos are filled up and everything. It's just, there were lots of characters. I think we all got on. We all got on really well. So where we probably weren't playing for loads of money. So that's probably
Lakeside felt like a family. Whenever I watched the
it
Lakeside,
it was a family.
I reckon I know what he'll say. Would you give up your 2015 world title if it meant Bournemouth won the Premier League?
Do you know what? I probably would.
I
probably would. I probably would. But I don't think they need me to. I think we're going in the right direction anyway. I think I'm going to get both. I'm going to have both.
Better direction than Spurs at the moment. Best player you've ever faced?
I've played Phil Taylor many times. He was great.
Yeah.
MVG was really good. And
He's
I've not yet played Littler. So, and Duzzer, once he got his... I'm going to have to say Phil Taylor because of just the amount he won.
Yeah.
But I managed to beat him 4 out of 5 times when we were doing exhibitions.
Wow.
He'd retired by then, mind.
Yeah.
He'd retired by then, and I was probably in full flow. And I could still only just get him.
Yeah, the record books doesn't say how old they were.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Last one. Who's a player, past or present, you'd love to face now?
Probably, I'd love to have had a go at Jockey Wilson.
Yeah.
I was due to play him at an exhibition when he was 19. I think he was 89 world champion.
Yeah.
So I'd only been 19 or so. And I went to the exhibition. It was in Christchurch.
Yeah.
And by this time, Jockey had already drunk 20 pints of beer. So the deal that he had was whatever the amount of money was, and all the beer he could drink from behind the bar. And the landlord had a gutful while he'd had about 20 pints. I was down to play him number 4.
Yeah.
And they refused him drink at at number 4.
Really?
I was down to play him number 5, and after number 4, they refused any more drink, so they just picked the gear up and walked out.
When I watched Jockey,
so I never did get to play him. I never got to speak to him. I was warming up on another ball, ready to go, and by the time I turned around, they'd gone and left. So I never got to meet Jockey. So that's the one regret I have, probably.
If you were ever going to be a darts coach and to throw a dart, you'd never throw it how Jockey Wilson would throw it. He looked like he was tripping over as he threw the dart, yet it would still go in where he... Do you know what I mean?
I qualified as a PDPA dart coach
and it looked like he
last May.
Snatched at it.
You would never teach him how to throw like that. But you
just
wouldn't even teach him how to throw like Littler.
No.
You would. There's a few, and Chisnell, well, you'd tell him to give up, wouldn't you?
No.
With the lurch and the snatch he has. But look, the thing with darts is I don't think it matters it's where they end up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not how you throw it, it's where they end up. And can you repeat that time after time after time?
It just looks so... what's the word? It doesn't look
comfortable at all. It looks an absolute
it looks like
effort.
It's going to go out the board.
It looks an absolute effort every time.
Triple 20. And
yeah,
like you say, it doesn't matter.
Cool. Well, that's the end of the... I say quick fire round. It wasn't that quick.
Yeah.
No, it never is with me. Look, I'm the slowest player in the world, and there was a few tough ones there. I did get a few ones in quick, but I can't do that.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I want to bring things up to date on kind of the current landscape of darts at the moment, and it certainly feels like the last few years it's really exploded a lot more, and it certainly feels like there's a lot more quality in the kind of top end of darts at the moment. But is the standard genuinely higher, or do you think that players are just getting more coverage? I'm
not sure that the standard is higher. I think if you look back at Taylor's stuff from 15, 20 years ago, and I mean, there's been a few people of late actually putting county averages on from 15 and 20 years ago, and they're not dissimilar to what there are now. I think James Wade hit the nail on the head a couple of weeks ago when he said the difference is there are more people doing the standard.
Yeah.
So where you had Phil doing it and maybe Barney and a few others, now the top 32 are doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and if you make a little mistake, a non-treble visit or whatever, you get punished heavily. And I think with the amount of money that's coming into the game, and it looks like it's going to get more and more, you're now finding players that would apply themselves for half an hour a week or 2 hours a week.
Signed a 20 million deal with Target or something
over 10 years or something. Yeah, I've seen that.
The perfect example, what you just said, and I think Phil might agree with me, is Price versus Plazier. Price, he hits in 100 averages every week. He wasn't bad at them, and then Wesley Plazier has 3 really good sets, knocks him out. I mean, you probably wouldn't have got that 20 years ago.
No, you wouldn't have done.
A player from ranked wherever.
And the reason, again, for that is the fact that there is more stage action for those guys before going on.
So they're not scared.
For likes of me, I was Lakeside one of the first times. If I hadn't played county, I would have never been on a stage.
Yeah.
But the Lakeside stage with 2,000 people in the place is very different than being on a county stage with 76 people in the crowd. You know, so the likes of Plazier now have played on big stages and stuff before they ever got there.
Yes.
So there's not that advantage that the older players or the more experienced players used to have.
No.
That advantage isn't there by being on the stage. So that's the reason for that, I think.
Brilliant, thank you. We just had the UK Open as well. Once again, Littler wins yet another title, and of course it's important to remember he's still only 19 now, isn't he? 18, 19.
He's still a teenager.
He is still a teenager.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that he's dominated the scene for the past couple of years. And it does feel like now we're seeing more of a common theme in terms of young players coming through. We've got Mitchell Lawrie, who's the world #1 on WDF, 15 years old. We've got, Van Veen at the moment, who's only 23 himself, and he's, top 3 of the world. I think we talked about, was it Jaden Walker? Sorry.
Yeah.
From Christchurch,
definitely.
who's only 13 and doing so well. So I guess, what's your take on the level that the younger generation are bringing through at the moment?
I think the level is really good because obviously you've now got JDC darts. Back in the day, you only had county youth darts and a few youth tournaments. Now there are more youth tournaments than there are for us. So you look now every weekend. There's a JDCs, there's JDC academies where they're practicing on Saturday mornings or a weeknight or whatever. I'm an ambassador for the Andover Darts Academy.
Yeah.
That's been running now for a fair few years, and players are coming through there. It's become a genuine sport and interest for the younger players. Luke has given it the Littler effect.
Yeah.
Dartboards sold out, and everybody saw their kid being able to do what Luke did, and now parents are seeing darts as an actual career for their kids if they can get it right. So they're being pushed into that direction rather than maybe football or rugby, which would probably you'd have seen more at under 8s and under 10s and all the rest of it.
Sure.
They're now going to academies on a Saturday morning for mum and dad.
Yeah.
Better than standing out there in the rain, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, being in something club somewhere with the kid really enjoying playing. And the one thing is so educational, learning how to use the numbers for the counting, the scoring, the taking away, the math skills. I mean, even when my kids were younger and they were at school and I got them playing, I wouldn't allow them to play unless they could mark a leg of 501.
Right.
And so I went to one of their parents teacher evenings, and I said, you know, Katie's gone from set 5 to set 2 in maths, and the same with Sam. And they said, what have you done? How was it overnight? I said, I've taught them how to play darts. Yeah. And I've taught them how to use those numbers, and when the 3s come up against the 8s and they've got to be taken off or added on, they know where it's going to be. Yeah, sure. It's just the using and the moving of the numbers. Once you understand that, you can understand anything. Yeah. So that it's a massive thing, and it's now being taken into schools. You know, there are Devin Peterson is developing a thing to go into schools. He's doing it in South Africa at the moment. And I can see it being good here. And there's in Ferndown, just locally, they have a school club at dinner time, which is a darts club, and I've been over to their darts club. So it's something that's really, really coming in, and I can see there being an awful lot more players in the next 5 years. We're going to see the game change even more to a younger audience as well.
Is that going to have an impact on Littler's dominance, do you think, or do you think that he's the type of player to...
I think the biggest thing that's going to impact on Littler's dominance is how much money does he want? Yeah. How much money does he need to live? Or how much money do you earn to keep your hunger to want to keep winning? And there has to be a motivation at some point or another. And for the likes of myself, probably there was never enough money around for us to say, oh yeah, you know, don't get me wrong. I'm in a better position in life now than before my darting career by a long shot. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm not in a position to be going and buying Porsches and Ferraris where Luke is. Well, you don't have to buy them when you get that good, do you? They give them to you. But the fact of the matter is, I think, could he win 16 world titles? He's now saying, well, I'm 2 closer than I was 2 years ago. I'm on 2, and can I catch him? Will he have the hunger? For Phil, the money was never the issue. No. It was always the title, always the trophy, always the accolades that he liked. If Luke can stay like that, I think he can stay in the game an awful long time. But he's also at a point where he's so famous. He's now doing Brit Awards presenting. I know. You know, it's a new thing. We've never seen it with darts. No. We thought we had a superstar in the likes of Bristow and Taylor and you know, Dennis Priestley's and all that. Yeah. But we've got a genuinely world-known star. Being sponsored by Xbox. When were they ever going to get involved in darts before? So the game is moving forward rapidly. Yeah. But we all know that everybody has their price. Does Barry Hearn have his price to sell the PDC? Where does it go from there? Who takes it on? And is he going to continue to keep it? Is it going to go to Eddie Hearn? Is it going to go... There are so many questions... to ask about where the sport is going. It's in a great place now. Will it be ever any bigger? No. So to the shareholders, is it time to jump out soon? Yeah. You just don't know with the way that the sport is set up now.
And it's so easy to say at 18, oh yeah, he'll easily surpass Phil. But look at Lewis when he first was. Lewis when he won his second world title, he said, "I'll win 10." So do you know what I mean? It's kind of, you never know what's around the corner. But right now, it looks
with this ever-changing world, we don't know what's around the corner, and it could be that Luke doesn't need to do it because of money, or it could be that the situation isn't there anymore because the PDC is sold, and the way that it could be changed. Who knows? We could all be playing elsewhere.
What's your kind of honest take on where you see the game heading in the next 10, 15 years? What do you think will genuinely happen?
I think as a sport, we have blanket coverage. We've got disability darts. We've got youth, girls and boys. We've got, you know, every single person in the world can throw a dart. Yeah. And we've got somewhere for them to throw it. Yeah. There's organisations for them to throw it. I think we have a blanket coverage, which I think a lot of other sports are very jealous of. I don't see the sport getting any smaller. No. But at the same time, at the top end, when you get right at the top of that tree, it is a very narrow top end. How long it stays there as a top end, I don't know. But I think for the next 10 years, it has a really good future.
I have a question that it was not on my cue card, but suddenly I remembered when Phil Taylor was at number 1, and they used to say, I wonder if darts will ever be an Olympic event. Well, if archery is, why can't darts be?
Well, they haven't got a bar in Olympic Village probably, but I don't know. I really thought it had its best chance when it was here in 2012.
London, yeah.
And I'm not sure whether who would have done it then. Would BDO as classed as amateur, or would it have been PDC classed as professional? Who knows? So I think that's the problem. That could be the problem. That could be the problem where it comes to which organisation takes it on and run it, because we know that most of the other sports are one organisation, and so they go and run the bobsleigh or the whatever. But how would that work with darts? I don't know. I would love to see it in the Olympics. I really would.
It would be great, because I think if a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not a sport; it's a pub duck," but as long as you've got a scoreboard and you've got 2 people facing each other, that's
it would be the easiest thing to film for Olympics as well, wouldn't
100%, yeah. The crowds.
You could have it. You'd have 3 representatives from each country, maybe.
Yeah.
It'd all be over in 2 days.
I don't think it's that far off, to be honest.
I was hoping it would happen a long time ago, but
I think it's a more genuine chance now than it was 15 years ago. Definitely. It's a more global game due to Luke Littler, due to Fallon Sherritt.
Yeah.
So I think there's more chance now.
Amazing. Well, that almost brings us to a close. So, Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. So, thank you once again for joining us. Before we do wrap things up, is there anything that you want to say to darts fans watching?
Just believe in yourself, really. I mean, there were people that remember me as an absolute bottler in my local league, losing finals and stuff like that. I think it's a game that you can actually teach yourself. It's one of the only sports that you can.
Yeah.
So when anybody else tells you can't do it, you go and show them that you can. And as long as you believe in yourself, it's what you allow yourself to do. It's all played in the mind. So if you believe that you can go and hit that double and own that moment, go and hit it, because it's the same feeling whether you're winning a world championship or winning a league game down the Dog and Duck on a Monday night.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
And once again, guys at home, thank you very much for watching. As always, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on our channel. Give us a follow over on our other channels too. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. The details will be coming up on the screen in a second. But yeah, we'll be back again next month to chat more darts. So stay tuned. All the best.